Welcome back to another episode of Light Beer, Dark Money. I'm Sean Noble.
And I am Chris Clements.
And they're trying to ruin baseball.
Wait, what?
You
You're
heard
leading
this
with
thing?
that? Not like, hey, Chris, how was your Thanksgiving?
Oh, yeah. Well,
Hey, how was your turkey day?
how was Thanksgiving, Chris?
It was nice. How was yours?
It was good.
You lead with they're ruining baseball.
Well, it's just so outrageous that this
Okay.
whole
How are they ruining baseball,
so
Sean?
if
us.
you don't follow baseball, you wouldn't know about this. And even if you do, you may not know about it because it's gotten some coverage, but I don't know if I think people think it might be a joke. But they're calling it a golden at bat rule, which says that once a game, you can bat your best batter regardless of where you are in the lineup. So let's say that you're the Dodgers and you want Ohtani.
Yeah.
So he's the leadoff. And then he gets on, somebody else gets on and say, oh, this is the time we want Ohtani again.
And you can move them back?
You can move him back.
That's insane.
But you can only do it once per game. It's so stupid.
I had not heard that.
It's so stupid. Why? There's no reason. Why?
With all the different trade, I have been getting a lot of texts from fans of baseball lamenting that the Dodgers happen to be cleaning up in the offseason.
I mean,
a little bit.
Basically, the Dodgers are signing every free agent.
There was
That's
a
worth their
Babylon
salt.
Bee meme the other day, like Dodgers take over baseball.
Dodgers signed every baseball player in the world.
Yeah.
It's
So
not
that is happening, and I'm not I'm not too upset about it. Yeah. But this is different. This is actually a fundamental change.
And
This is probably worse than the DH, which I don't like.
yeah, definitely worse than the DH for the National League. Which okay, whatever. The pitch clock has helped
That's been
speed
great.
the game. I'd love it.
That's great.
They've made.
They
some
should
changes.
actually. I mean, I'd be in favor of them tightening that up a little bit.
Yeah, maybe. But this golden at bat thing,
Golden
it's just
at bat?
so stupid.
So time. I mean, if you just designate Freddie Freeman, for instance.
Yeah.
Freddie just hit the grand. Let's say you're more in the middle of the game, and he hit a grand slam earlier, and you can move him. Him again.
I mean,
He's third in the lineup, and you can move him down to seventh.
Exactly.
That's crazy.
It's dumb. It's dumb. Anyway, I don't know why I led with that, but I guess it was just because I was
You know what?
outraged.
Because baseball is about America.
That's right.
And if they're going to cheat in baseball, it's a reflection on America. And that just seems like cheating.
Yeah, it is.
No, there's nothing pure about that.
Speaking of cheating,
Yes.
well, I don't know. They lost fair and square, but they tried to cheat. The Democrats, I'm talking about.
Oh, well, they're still trying
the
to
whole democracy. So we have, obviously Biden dropped out. They subverted democracy by installing Kamala. They thought that was going to be the thing. Oh, turns out it didn't work. She has these calls with both the grassroots and the donors. She's clearly inebriated. During these
you mean her
videos?
You mean last week?
Yeah.
Her Thanksgiving.
Her
Thanksgiving.
thank you calls to the donors.
You have the power.
Yeah,
It reminded me of an old Warner Brothers cartoon.
yes.
Remember the stork?
Yeah.
The stork who brings babies to families, and they say, and the stork is like, everybody loves the stork. Here, stork, have a drink. It's like Kamala. Everybody loves Kamala. I'm the head of the party. Here, Kamala, have a drink.
Yeah.
Have some rosé all day.
All day rosé.
And that was amazing because wasn't there a shot of like the wine glass off to the side, or somebody mentioned that? I couldn't see it.
I didn't see that, but
She was obviously inebriated.
But it
And
was
who in their right mind would think to put that out?
well. It was a live call.
Oh, okay.
It was a recording of a live call.
But
that
who in
she
their right
did.
mind, knowing that she's been like hitting the sauce all
Well,
day?
look, she's a grown ass adult. She should know that she needs to perform.
I'm gonna
least
find
one
my
last time.
words. dreams and aspirations that you all have.
The whole thing was just an embarrassment.
Everybody loves me. They just didn't know it.
But not as embarrassing as proving as you're going out the door that you're the biggest liar that's ever sat in the White House.
Well, it's not like anybody really took him at his word, except for maybe some hardcore
Oh,
partisans.
I think a lot of partisans did. I think a lot of Democrats really believe that he wasn't going to
that, which is insane.
Pardon.
Which is insane.
It was always going to happen.
It was always going to happen. What's really insane now is like this idea that he's going to pardon a whole slew of people for crimes they, quote unquote, even haven't committed. They haven't been charged for anything.
Well,
I mean, Dr. Fauci, Dr. Faustus, has got to be really scared.
Well, he should be. He should be.
I mean, there's already, how many criminal referrals did Rand Paul send to the Justice Department that never acted on? I think like 2 or 3 just for lying to Congress.
Yeah, I mean, look.
So you can't really pardon him. I mean, I guess you could, but then you're just going to call him back, and if he lies again, that's a whole new charge.
Yeah, I mean,
it's like a circular firing squad.
Biden would have done. I mean, in all seriousness, if he wanted to take some of the pressure or some of the angst out of this Hunter Biden pardon, he should have pardoned Trump and Hunter together.
Well, that's what Senator Manchin suggested. Joe Manchin suggested he pardon Trump.
Well, I think
at
this point,
give the country a clean slate. You're going to pardon your son, pardon Trump too. He's for sure going to pardon his brother and his daughter.
I can't imagine he doesn't.
I can't imagine anything, and probably his wife, perhaps. Who knows what she's done?
I mean,
Alejandro Mayorkas.
Well, what's crazy?
He's going to get pardoned.
So here's the challenge on this,
because this is the F around and find out election,
right? But here's what's. I mean, this is, and I said this via tweet, X post. It turns out Joe Biden was on Team Trump all along. I mean, undercuts Kamala, and now he's in pardoning Hunter. You're admitting that all these things, because the scope of the pardon,
the two-tier system of justice.
The scope of the pardon is the broadest, most aggressive scope of any pardon in history
since Nixon.
No, more than Nixon, because it's a 10-year window.
Well, I mean, it's comparable to that pardon.
Yeah, but
I mean, in terms of breadth.
It's
a bold admission that massive crimes were committed.
Yes, it's an admission that there was crimes being committed.
My son was the bag man for our family. I'm going to make sure that bag keeps flowing.
It's an admission that there were crimes being committed while he was the vice president of the United States. Now,
not least of which is classified documents next to the Corvette,
right?
Too.
But that doesn't have anything to really do.
Is he going to try to pardon himself?
But what he's done is he's given Trump a complete carte blanche.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I can't imagine there's anybody that Trump would pardon that's a broader pardon than what Hunter just got.
Yeah.
Usually pardons are for a specific thing, or things. Like it would have been very easy to pardon Hunter on the things that he was facing sentencing for and just leave it at that. But no, this was way beyond that. Way beyond that.
Well, I mean, the reaction of the press trying to defend this pardon as, the drug addicted, poor son, poor Hunter, was one of the most just insulting things I've seen.
Well, I mean, look, there's only been a handful of the press that have actually legitimately tried to defend this. I mean, almost nobody can.
But I guess the point that the point I wanted to make was what was really interesting after the pardon was to see the reaction of the judge and the special prosecutor, David Weiss. We're like, he's full of crap. Nothing in this memo, I think one of the judge in California called it a memo, is true. None of it's true.
Well,
in fact, and in that case, that was the tax evasion case. Hunter admitted in his pleading that he actually committed these crimes when he was sober, after he had gotten clean.
Right.
So the whole thing is a joke.
Well, and not only that, but did I mean the fact that I mean I don't know. It's just so mind blowing how broad the scope is on this.
Yeah.
And the admission that there was crimes going on long before the admission.
The fact that it starts right when the pardon in January 2014.
Yeah,
right when Hunter began his stint at Burisma.
Yeah,
right then he started that in May, if I recall. So it's a bold admission that what they were doing was illegal. So Joe Biden didn't pardon Hunter; he pardoned himself.
Well, not only that, but the language he used in saying, and this is the other part of the Team Trump,
without pardoning himself.
The language he used in the statement and pardon, in part of why I said he's part of Team Trump is he talked about the weaponization
of the Justice Department. So
you can't get any more rich than that.
The logic is really interesting
that is
there
the
because
richest irony ever.
Yeah, if the Justice Department has been weaponized against your son, and that no reasonable person would bring these type of charges or come to these conclusions, then what the heck was going on with Trump?
Exactly. I mean, that's why I think. I mean, maybe this is what lays the groundwork for him to do the Trump pardon.
Maybe.
I don't know.
Maybe, or maybe the appointment of Kash Patel just blew their brains, and they figured they had to do something.
Well, I think that's
because Kash has not been shy about
what
he intends to do.
Yeah, and
I don't think he'll actually shut down the J. Edgar Hoover building day one, like he said on a podcast.
Not?
But they're, because it takes.
He should.
Takes a lot to do
How many
that.
people are even
but I
showing up to work?
Yeah, but I think emphatically and euphemistically that building will completely change once he's approved. I think he will be approved.
Yeah, I mean, so we've seen Gates be nominated and drop out. There's this dude that was a sheriff in Florida, who was named as DEA, and he dropped out. Big right wing. And I don't remember exactly why I didn't pay attention.
You didn't pay attention, Sean?
To why they didn't like him.
Yeah, I didn't. I wasn't looking at DEA.
And Hegseth is
going. He's running the gauntlet.
He's on life support.
Yeah, he's definitely running the gauntlet. He was on Megyn Kelly yesterday, and I listened to that. And we'll see. I mean, you were around, Concerned Veterans of America back in the day.
I never saw anything like what they're talking about.
Yeah, I got to know some people there after he had left because I was doing some work with Boulder Crest down here, and we were, doing some not necessarily lobbying, trying to get some people on our side for some legislation that we were trying to do, and I heard nothing but good things about him.
Yeah,
and that he had left because of a difference of philosophy, more so than anything scandalous.
Right.
But they're hitting him with everything.
They're trying to.
It's what slime is going to stick.
Yeah, they're smearing him for sure.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff that's not true, but there probably are some things.
Do you think
that are
there's
true.
truth to this idea that Trump has talked to DeSantis about not being the number two? That puts. I mean, if DeSantis were to accept that, puts him squarely. I know DeSantis wants to run for president again. I'm assuming he's planning to run in 2028. I don't know if he were to even accept this, it would even help him.
Yeah, I don't know whether going from defense secretary to running for president is very possible.
Yeah,
without resigning defense secretary before the end of the
term.
term.
It doesn't
at least a year before the end of the term.
Longer than that. And also, I mean, obviously J.D. Vance is going to be running for president in 2028.
Yeah,
it puts you in a difficult, sort of equation, I should say, electoral equation when you're part of the administration and you're resigning the administration to go run for president against the vice president.
I
guess is what I'm trying to say.
I do find it
That
fascinating.
just seems weird.
I do find it fascinating that it doesn't portend well for Pete if the transition is allowing names to be floated.
Yeah.
Regardless of who they are. But the fact that it's DeSantis, that's interesting because I wonder if that's a test to see how the online MAGA world would respond to, a DeSantis or a DeSantis person.
Yeah.
So maybe it's someone who was a supporter of DeSantis in the presidential primary that will actually be.
Well, they floated not just DeSantis, but Senator Ernst from Iowa. That name was floating around the other day.
Which is very interesting because she's one of the main blocks on Hegseth at this point. Everybody's kind of waiting because she's, former combat woman in combat, and Hegseth has said he doesn't think women should be in combat. And, she's been very big on, pushing back against sexual harassment, especially in the military. And that's one of the accusations against him. So she's been kind of seen as the bellwether, and she sits on the Armed Services Committee.
Yeah, of course.
So she's been seen as one of the bellwether votes in the Senate. And the only comment she made after the meeting yesterday was that they had a very deep and thorough conversation. That's all she said.
Well, I mean, I'm sure Pete did what he does. I mean, very thorough conversation he had with Megyn Kelly yesterday, and it was very revealing in many ways. But he was a naughty boy for a lot of years.
Yeah.
And listen, I'd be hypocritical to criticize a phase of your life where you're just lost.
Right.
Everyone has been there. Everyone has been there.
And
I do agree that it's where are you now that is very
Yeah.
important. They were making that argument yesterday. And I go, you know what? That's true.
Yeah.
That's
because
true.
you're right. I mean, I suppose there are some people who don't ever have that moment, but it's either
After
high
my
school
dad died,
or it's
I was a complete
college,
total
or
loser.
it's a trauma in the family, or it's a midlife crisis, or whatever. For me, it was both high school and then kind of a quarter life. I plan to be 130, so
Yeah.
I can't say midlife because I'm not even close to that. But I was in my 40s.
We're old.
And I did not have. I was trying to catch up with a college experience I never had, and that led to.
Yes,
a lot
I
of
think that's
bad
a great
decisions.
sort of analysis of that time, catching up with an experience you felt you lost and kind of throwing caution to the wind.
Yeah.
He came back from war, and he was just doing his thing.
Yeah, I mean,
I get that. I again, hypocritical to throw rocks.
Yeah, but for
at
the
glass
grace of
houses.
God, I mean, does he have a drinking problem? Maybe.
Maybe.
I mean,
he said
probably
he
not.
would invoke like Special Order 1, which is no drinking during deployment, if he was, got the job.
Yeah.
Said that yesterday.
Okay, good.
Whatever.
Some people can, some people can't.
Some people can, some people can't. That would be the question.
So, well, I mean, the good news for me. So the other one. So there's some Democrats obviously who want to try to pick off all of these guys.
Yeah, as
And
many as they can. Get as many
and-
scalps as they can.
And I guarantee
For lack of
that
a better term.
if they get Hegseth to withdraw, then Tulsi Gabbard's the next on the list.
Yeah.
And then after that, it's RFK Jr. And then after that, it's Dr. Oz. I mean, they're going to, I think and Kash Patel might be in that mix, but there aren't a lot of Democrats who want to try to go defend the FBI.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a problem.
There's an old saying when you're over the, when you're over the target when the vitriol gets more pronounced.
Yeah.
And Trump's over the target here.
Oh, absolutely.
And so holding fast on many of these nominees, Hegseth notwithstanding, Tulsi Gabbard, RFK, Marty McCary, all these folks who are a threat to the body politic, so to speak, to the swamp, to what has been happening over the last 20 years in Washington, D.C., that's when you know there's something happening.
Well,
and the fear.
Yeah, and it's interesting to me to look at old.
I mean, the
style-
reaction against Cash was really interesting. Like visceral.
Well,
and
and
people lost their minds. I'm like, yeah, you're losing your minds because you know he's right.
Right, that's the point.
That's why you're losing your mind.
because-
He's right. He's right about all of it, and he knows all of it. I saw him on an interview the other day with, who was it? I can't remember.
He did one with
Anyway,
Glenn Beck recently.
yeah, Glenn Beck. That's who it was. It was Glenn Beck, and he was talking about how he's seen the JFK files.
Yeah.
He's seen the 11 pages of the 9/11 files. The JFK files. You know what do you say? He goes, you already know what's in there. You've already seen it. You just aren't willing to accept it or something like that. Right. And then he said that he would immediately release the 9/11 documents.
Yeah.
Because that absolutely has to happen.
Yeah, the thing is, what's mystifying to me is why the Democrats were the anti-FBI for forever because of J. Edgar Hoover, who was a tyrant,
a slime bucket.
I mean, the guy abused the power. I mean, he created an FBI that went way beyond the scope.
Completely.
And Cash is saying,
which is why his name
we're
is on
going to
the
put
building.
it back in the box. And people are like, oh, he's going to be another Hoover. No, he's going to be the antithesis of Hoover.
Yeah.
Because he understands that this is real power that damages people's lives in a real way for not a good reason.
Well, I mean, just look at what's happened over the last 4 years. Look what's happened to Catholics over the last 4 years, what the FBI has done. Putting Catholics under surveillance for going to Latin Mass.
Yeah.
Putting mothers and fathers under surveillance for speaking out against trans insanity in their schools. Raiding, anti-abortion activist homes with their 7 kids looking on, carrying them off in handcuffs.
Yeah, exactly. Going to school board meetings and monitoring
it's an organization, it's a division of government that's totally out of control.
Out of control, too big, too much. It's lost its purpose.
I mean, that's where I do agree with him. If he can do it, on day one, walking into the J. Edgar Hoover building and saying, okay, all 7,000 of you are in this building, go be cops. There's no reason for you to be here.
Well, I bet there's not 7,000 people in
forensics
that room.
over here.
I guarantee you that there's a whole bunch of those people who aren't showing up to the building.
No.
They're working from home. All right, stay there. Paycheck's gone.
That is going to be the nicest change if the Doge folks
and they should get rid of
happen.
One of the first things he should do is demand that they change the name of the building.
Yes, rename the building.
Rename the building.
Well, didn't they already appropriate?
Well, there's
a new building that's going to happen in like Maryland.
It's going to be in Maryland, but I don't know if that's actually final yet because the GSA was doing, and the Virginia delegation versus the Maryland delegation because Virginia wanted it in Virginia, Maryland wanted it in Maryland. Virginia made the case that we've already got Quantico, we've got
we've got everything here anyway, just down the Georgetown Parkway.
The CIA's in Langley is in Virginia. Why does it need to be in Maryland?
And Reston. Whenever I would go visit my mother-in-law, my phone would all of a sudden stop working.
Yeah, no surprise. No surprise.
And then I would inquire. I'm like, well, you realize the CIA is right there, and in that building, and that building, that building. There's
talk about another agency that's
out of control.
Out of control.
Yeah.
Well,
and Cash sort of alluded to that in that interview with Glenn Beck, and with regard to JFK. He's like, all your answers are in front of you. You know the answers, but the issue is, what if you had some pieces of government who kept doing it over and over again?
Right.
That would be something that would be tough to swallow. So we have to be tactical about what gets released. And I was like, okay, well, at least release something.
Yeah. I mean,
the truth is out there.
The truth is out there.
I mean, unfortunately, it's in some file cabinet somewhere. Yeah. But the fact that he said that he's seen all of it I thought was really, of course he has.
Yeah.
And that's what scares them.
Right.
What scares them the most is that he knows.
They know that he
knows.
knows. They know that he knows.
Yeah. And then his testimony, what he said about when he was on Devin Nunes's committee, investigated the Russia hoax, and he subpoenaed Christopher Wray for a bunch of records, and they opened up a file on him and started surveilling him.
Yeah.
So, ladies and gentlemen, I've said this time and time again. This is the F around and find out election, and over the next several weeks, you're going to find out whether Trump has a true movement going into Washington, because the Senate and the House is going to have to get behind some of these nominees and just be like, we're doing this.
Well, and I think that they will. There's definitely
They have the power to do it. They need to do it.
Yeah, there's definitely going to be a sea change in Washington. And is it going to be transformational? Probably. Is it going to be a battle royale? 100%. And this is the thing that people need to recognize, is that it's going to take a lot of effort to make the changes that we all want to see, because the entrenchment there is so deep and so established. And it's, yes, there are evil people, but there's also just people who don't want to let go.
Yeah.
And so you're going to, and you see this on MSNBC if you watch it, and I'm sure that most of our listeners and viewers don't watch MSNBC, but I've been, watching here and there. All of it is about, we're undoing the historical norms, just like the Trump first time. They're just trying to regurgitate all that. So what my point is that in the mainstream media,
I would say pardoning your son, unleashes the historical norms.
Yeah, exactly. But what you're going to see in the weeks and months to come are the stories from the mainstream media that this is dangerous, that this is undermining the institution, that this is, the things that Trump wants to accomplish in draining the swamp are going to be somehow, anti-American. They're going to be anti-security. They're going to be anti-privacy. All these things that they're going to try to use to scare you into thinking, this isn't good. We shouldn't do this. We shouldn't do this to the FBI. We shouldn't do this to the CIA. We shouldn't do this to the federal employees. It's all going to be just performative. They are trying to use fear. They're going to try to use fear to stop reform.
Yeah. Well, that's what they've been doing. Look at the whole policy prescriptions that they made around COVID.
Yeah.
And how that's all coming home to roost.
Yeah.
And that's so many of these appointments are a reaction to that.
Right.
In fact, we were lied to.
The election was a reaction to that.
Yeah, that we were lied to from a public policy perspective on COVID through their teeth. Everything was a lie. Almost everything.
Almost everything, yeah. Yeah.
If you're vaccinated, you can't infect anyone else, and you are inoculated. Lie.
Right.
If you stay away 5-6 feet from somebody, you're lessening your chances of getting sick. Lie. If you wear this flimsy, clothy, snotty-nosed mask, you can protect yourself. Lie. If you wear this other nice surgical mask, you can protect yourself. Lie. Everything was a lie.
Yeah.
That's why you have people like Jay Bhattacharya from Stanford. He's going to be head of the NIH. And he was the principal author of the Barrington Declaration.
Yeah.
Which said protect the vulnerable. Don't shut down schools. Don't shut down businesses, and the virus will work its way through nominally, which is what Sweden did. Other countries did that. And he was immediately trashed. And the truth is that Dr. Faustus, approved gain-of-function research in America and at the Wuhan lab. He had direct ties to the Wuhan lab, and that lab created COVID-19. That they had a lab leak. They tried to cover it up, and it infected the entire world. That's the truth.
Yeah.
Everybody knows it. except the people who are living in some box somewhere.
Well, the people who
People are still
wearing a
walking
mask.
around town with masks. I saw 3 of them yesterday.
So
Like, you really need. I mean, I could get it if your immune system is heavily compromised and you're very sick and feel that you need to do that. But I saw an able-bodied person walking down the street yesterday, full mask. I think he was double masked.
Well,
Like, what
I mean,
the heck
it's
is
someone,
going on?
It's someone like Taylor Lorenz, this former Washington Post.
Oh my
reporter.
gosh, her.
She had something going on in New York, and then she required. Oh, it was a book event because she did a book. So she had people come to a book signing or a book event. She required PCR tests of everyone before they came, masks while they're there. I mean, this is late 2024. This is like right now. I'm talking about last week, right? And somebody posted a picture with her mask off, and she went into this freak out about, I only had the mask off for a second because I was doing, it's like the virtue signaling is insane, but she is insane because this is a little segue into this horrific news from yesterday about the CEO of United Healthcare
yeah.
being shot down,
Executed.
on
Broad daylight.
Well, they say broad daylight. It was still a little bit dark.
It was
6:45
dark.
in the
It was
morning.
dark, but there was a witness right there. There was
yeah,
a
I mean,
woman standing right there watching the whole thing. There are other people.
It was right in front of the hotel where he was going in to do meet with it was Investor Day or something like that for United Health Group. And Taylor Lorenz, who's not on Twitter anymore, she's on Blue Sky.
Well, everyone's leaving for Blue Sky.
Well, not everyone, just the crazy ones. People have very justified hatred toward insurance company CEOs because these executives are responsible for an unfathomable amount of death and suffering. As someone against death and suffering, I think it's good to call out this broken system and the people in power who enable it. She's basically saying, yes, kill the CEO because they're a part of a bunch of death and suffering.
Yeah, that's insane. That's insane. Apparently, I mean, his wife had said that he's been getting, threats for canceled policies and things like that, which is, kind of normal. I know insurance executives have gotten threats from ex-employees, and
well,
I mean, it's a crazy time.
And
but this was different.
This was a full-on assassination. I mean, if you see the video, and
this guy knew where he was going to
be. You need to.
Or not watch the video.
What's that?
You can watch the video or not. It's
it's
disturbing.
up to you. The guy,
it's like something out of a movie.
Yeah, the guy literally walks up to him, completely cool-headed. I mean, there's no hesitation, nothing. He just shoots him. He's got some kind of a weapon that requires him to cock it each time he shoots because you can see him doing that. And it's not just like a standard handgun. And he shoots him. I think at least 3 or 4 shots are fired. He was hit twice.
Yeah,
once in the back and once in the calf.
But you saw the back shot. That was the first one. And he stumbles to the right and probably hit his calf. Then
just awful. And
it's scary.
And I mean, if you're a healthcare executive, if you are, frankly, if you're any kind of a CEO or
for a multinational company, I mean, now what's going to happen is that internal security is going to be paramount.
Yeah.
It's going to change the calculation of the board of directors, and
well,
personal security now is going to be paramount. Self-defense, having a gun, being able to carry as a CEO of a large corporation.
The other thing is that he was under investigation for insider trading because he and a few other executives had sold a lot of stock right before the release of information about a hack on personal records of a bunch of people in the United Healthcare system, which the stock dropped significantly after that revelation, but they had sold millions of dollars worth of stock.
He sold like $15 million worth of stock beforehand.
So
something like that.
Yeah, so it's
it's scary.
It is scary. I mean, but the reaction has been so wild. Literally, Taylor Lorenz is just one example of people who because he's the CEO of a health insurance company, they view this as justified, which is just. I'm sorry. That's not the way this works.
It's not justified.
No.
And you can't fight crazy with crazy.
No.
And she's been a lunatic now for several years.
Yes.
She's living in. It goes back to what I talked about Democrats being delusional. I mean, they live in a different world. They live in a world of fantasy, and your reality is whatever you decide to make it. And boys can be girls, and girls can be boys, and you can even pick your race now. Apparently,
I mean, it is pretend world.
Yeah,
they live in a pretend world.
It's pretend world. It's La La Land. It's fantasy land.
It's
second star of the right, and straight on till morning.
And what's interesting what will be interesting to watch.
I mean, right?
It's
just
it'll be interesting to watch if there is a course correction within the Democratic Party, and I don't know whether there is, because you see the fights going on in Congress right now with the Democrat who's going to be ranking member of the committees. Jerry Nadler was the senior member on the Judiciary Committee. He was challenged by Jamie Raskin, who is the head of oversight. Raskin is more liberal, more anti-Trump, but he bullied Nadler into resign. Nadler's now endorsed Raskin for ranking member of Judiciary Committee. And
that's not a bad thing.
AOC is now saying that she might run to be ranking member of the Oversight Committee. I mean,
you mean
so
Sandy Cortez?
I mean,
from Westchester?
Yeah, I mean, but she's
bartender,
a congresswoman. She got elected. So I mean, these are entered in the Beltway fights about stuff, but it's not recognizing the fundamental problem.
You know what?
With
Let's
the
have
Democrats
this discussion really quick. So you just kind of dismissed what I said about Sandy Cortez as Westchester bartender. Okay, Sandy Cortez epitomizes the La La Land that these people live in. Epitomizes. No doubt she got elected, but the way in which she was first elected, she was interviewed for the job. They made up this whole fallacy of AOC. They branded her.
No, but that's her name.
She had never gone by that her entire life. Okay?
People
and then
do
they
that a lot.
rebranded her this Marxist activist, blah, blah, blah. She had none of that in her background at all. She grew up in an upper middle class family in Westchester, New York, was a bartender up until 2 minutes ago. And so this whole thing of her is a fantasy.
Well,
I think, remember when people were saying that Kamala had her earrings were little
microphone
or
head,
headpieces? Same for AOC. She doesn't have an original thought. Everything that comes out of her head comes from Justice Democrats. They just feed her things to say. She's just a mouthpiece.
Yeah. Well, she is. Yes, I believe that she is a mouthpiece for the hard left. But I also think that she is starting to wonder, because I don't know if you saw this Instagram reel that she did.
I don't follow her on
where
Instagram.
she was saying, I really am interested to know who are the Trump AOC voters, because Trump did significantly better in her district than he had previously. And it was clear that there were a whole bunch of people who voted for Trump and voted for AOC. And she was legitimately I want to know who you are, because this is really interesting. So,
and what was the answer?
Well, I don't know if she has the answer yet. I'm sure the people have reached out to her, but it was a moment of unfiltered, Justice Democrats didn't feed that to her. She was truly baffled. And I think that the Democrats would be smart to be baffled.
Oh,
so that they can try to figure out.
The swing that has happened across the country towards Trump, towards a lot of conservatism, has been dramatic.
Yeah, and
it's been absolutely dramatic.
It's going to take some humility on the Democrats' part to be self-reflective enough to try to understand what went wrong.
Okay, but if you like, the Harris campaign did a podcast the other day on Pod Save America, unpacking why they lost, and everything that I've read, heard, I've listened to a little bit of it, but then I shut it off because I'm like, these people are delusional. They really don't understand, or they just don't want to say it.
They don't
want to admit they had a horrible candidate, number one. Number two, they don't want to admit their mistakes. They totally misjudged the electorate in terms of the trans issue, in terms of the immigration issue. They thought they could paint Kamala as like this tough on crime crusader, and that just, nobody believed that.
Right.
Nobody believed anything you were saying.
It was a fascinating discussion because it was one in which they blamed everyone and everything except themselves.
Exactly.
There was no.
I mean, David
accountability.
Plouffe, how does he sleep at night? He just rakes in money and spouts off BS.
I mean, look,
he might be the most delusional.
Well,
other than cackling Kamala, who's still drunk.
It is, and I say this as a political consultant. Consultants too often think that they're the ones who made someone happen. So David Plouffe believes Plouffe believes that he was the one who got Barack Obama elected.
Oh,
it wasn't the candidate.
It wasn't Barack.
Yeah, and so this is an example of consultants not taking responsibility for making mistakes, and it's somebody. So they'll take the credit, but they'll never take the responsibility. And
they never recognize the candidate is
the candidate is the most important part.
Is the issue.
It is the most important. It does not matter the amount of money, the
$1.5 billion you guys spent. You can't figure it out.
Candidates matter. Candidates matter. And I mean, all you have to do is look at Arizona.
Yeah.
Kerry Lake lost in a year in which every Republican worth anything won. Candidates matter.
Yeah, even Juan Ciscomani.
Yeah.
Won by more than he did last time.
Yeah.
You know, David Schweiker won by more than he did last time. Those are our most two competitive
We picked up
districts.
seats in the state legislature.
Yeah.
I mean, this was a dramatic Republican year. And we had a Senate candidate lose because candidates matter.
Yeah. Absolutely. It's going to be interesting 4 years, Sean.
Well, interesting 4 years. It's going to be interesting to see what
4
happens.
weeks. It's going to be a great 4
well,
weeks.
It'll be interesting to see what happens between now and the inauguration, and then when we actually get to the hearings and confirmations and that kind of thing. That's going to be wild.
Yeah. Now they can start that process early when Congress rings in on the 3rd, 4th.
Yeah, I suppose
6th.
they might be able to do that. That's probably true. I don't know. I'm trying to think.
You have to wait till he's president and he formally
maybe,
nominates them.
Maybe they do have to wait. I
will say this. I was thinking about this about Trump. It's really smart of him to be doing this as quickly as he has and throwing these names out there and seeing where the tea leaves fall. If he has to make adjustments, if he has to pivot to other people.
Yes,
because it's much harder later.
It's much better to
and much more scandalous.
Much better to clear out the underbrush and go into the first few weeks of your administration with things that are just going to happen.
Yeah,
and you don't have.
It's just done.
Other things.
Yeah. It's quickly. It's going to be interesting to see what they tackle first. There's some rumblings in the Senate that they don't want to tackle Trump's tax cuts until way in the fall.
Well, they want to do, yeah. So
I think that's a huge mistake, Senator Thune. Huge.
Yeah, so the
massive.
The just so people understand reconciliation, you've got basically 2 shots within the first fiscal year.
Yeah.
And Thune, the new Senate Majority Leader, has said that he wants to do immigration and what was the other thing? Anyway, Immigration was the lead.
Immigration was the leader.
And something else. And pushed the tax reconciliation package to later in the year.
Right. To the fall,
And
September, October.
David Schweikert and other House members were like, "Whoa, wait a minute. We need to get this done
Ahead of time.
ahead of time."
Yeah. Ways and Means is going to tackle
And they
it
could actually
first.
do it. They could actually all do it together. They don't have to separate these.
No. And I think there's every intent on the House side for Ways and Means to go first, and they're going to tackle it first.
As they should.
And also it gives markets certainty, just from a capitalism standpoint.
Yeah.
If you're able to tackle this within the first 3 months, you give markets understanding. People understand what their taxes are going to look like a year out. They can plan. They can plan,
Yeah.
and they can strategize, and they can forecast, and they can do all these things. Businesses, homeowners, everybody.
Yep.
It benefits the economy that way. It creates more agreeable economic activity.
Yeah.
And right now we're on a huge upswing. Everyone's in the business community and the economic community very excited about what's possible. And so getting those proposals implemented as soon as possible, getting those tax cuts extended or made permanent, makes much more sense in the early going.
Yes.
So it creates just an economic uncertainty going into the fall and going into the holidays and stuff. Avoid it. Avoid it
Yeah.
at all costs.
Yeah.
Do it now.
Exactly.
The immigration stuff won't be fixed overnight. So, but tax policy can be fixed overnight and have immediate impact.
Yeah.
Whereas immigration policy, while necessary, will take a long time and it will take years to unpack all the damage that the Biden administration has done to our country.
Right. Yeah, it will. Absolutely.
I mean, even in New York, it's just a mess. And that was my first reaction when that CO was shot. I just thought it was some random thing, but obviously not.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
What if it's somebody that he knew?
Oh. I don't know.
Order the hit on him. That was my other thought.
I mean, it's definitely. I mean, it definitely feels like it was a hit.
Yeah.
I mean, just somebody. I don't think it was somebody who was mad at him that did that because there's no emotion in that.
Yeah, there's a picture on the New York Post website of him. They finally found a picture of him
Without a mask.
without a mask, him laughing.
Hmm.
I don't know if it's before or after.
Has
or
been
whatever.
before.
Yeah. So
Well,
pretty bad.
we want to wrap this up by do a little shout out to one of our sponsors, Americans
Yes.
for Prosperity Arizona. And they just yesterday, just I want to give a little update. They have a key vote alert. They're asking people to contact their representative to support Yes in My Backyard Act. It's the YIMBY Act.
The YIMBY Act, not
Yeah.
the NIMBY Act.
It was
YIMBY. Yes,
it
in my
makes-
backyard.
It makes receipt of community development block grants funding to localities conditional upon recipients submitting a plan to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development to track restrictive zoning policies such as limits on duplexes, multifamily housing, manufactured housing, as well as burdensome permitting requirements. So it's basically show us that you're allowing multi-housing, dealing with the housing crisis before you get these block grants, community development block grants.
Because some communities are doing their own thing.
Yes.
And-
Blocking
and-
and making it so that we can't get more affordable housing.
Well, and taking the money and doing something else with it.
Yeah,
obviously.
exactly. Right.
Obviously, that's why
So,
you would need such a law.
It's
such a regulation.
It's just yet again another example of Americans for Prosperity holding their feet to the fire of elected officials and of regulators.
yeah.
This is one in which the regulators are like, "Hey, you can't do that kind of stuff." So
Well, that will be one of the great things that will happen under the Trump presidency. I'm predicting the 100,000 pages in the Federal Register that was approved during the Biden administration is going to be under extreme scrutiny
yes.
with the Doge.
Well,
and the gift of the Supreme Court that was Chevron deference.
Yes. And just real quickly, because
so much of that's just going to go.
I know we're going long, but one thing I just want to say about the Department of Government Efficiency. Vivek was in D.C. doing a little panel discussion, and he made the point, which I thought was a good one, is that the purpose of DOGE is not necessarily saving money. It is to pull back on the amount of federal influence there is in people's lives, the number of people and the number of regulations, and the money savings is just the gravy.
The money savings is going to happen because they're going to be implementing public policy that puts people first and not government. And that is a philosophical issue.
The issue is that, yes, we're going to have a reduced number of federal employees. That's going to be cost savings, but
I think the cost savings alone of ordering employees back to the Beltway, back into the district, is going to be great. I can't wait to hear these sob stories of how people can't go to work anymore.
Well, they have to go to work.
They have to go to work.
I mean, the Trump administration
save
show
DC.
up.
Save DC.
Yeah,
go to work. Save the district.
Lost some of my favorite restaurants because of that.
Yeah, save the district. Go to work.
Yeah.
Get out. Put your pajamas away. Put on your suit, and get back to the Department of Agriculture.
Get back to work. All right. On that note.
Thanks,
everybody.
All right. God bless.
Take care.
Thanks for listening. Bye-bye.